All right, good morning, everyone. I hope the mic sounds good. I know I've been having some mic issues lately, but I hope the mic sounds good. Good morning. Hope everyone is having a great week or had a great weekend, and I wish you all a great week coming up. And hope you all had a good, happy holidays, whatever it is that you celebrate. All right, we coming up. If you're into Christmas, again, get that Christmas shopping done. Because next week is going to be wild. Next week is going to be crazy. All right. Shout out to everyone that's here already. The Working Man, Punch Quote, UG, Digo 0082. What's up? Everyone that's coming in, smash that like button. All right. So we have a lot to talk about today, and we're gonna close this whole 135 division thing up, and then eventually move on for the fights coming up this weekend. We do have some fights coming up this weekend, and I want to get into those. Before we get into that, I want to close all this out because all we've been doing is talking about 135 the last few weeks because of all of the fights we got. Starting out with a huge upset with between George Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez. Then going into the fight with Tank and Isaac Cruz. Then the Devin Haney, Jojo Diaz fight as well. And now this past weekend, we just got Lomachenko and Richard Coleman. All right. So, what's up, D-Style? Yeah, I agree with you. I think we all can agree that most of us don't want it to be Ryan Garcia, but we're going to get into that in a minute. What's up, D-Style? Was good. Yoga was good. Centurion's son was good. What's up, everyone? We're going to definitely get into it. I did a poll that I'm going to check as of right now. I did a poll late last night before I went to bed. Who should Kambosos defend his 4 titles against in his next fight? And we got 835 votes so far. And right now, Devin Haney is in the lead with 51% of the votes. Vasil Lomachenko has 39% of the votes. Tank Davis got 8% of the votes. And Ryan Garcia has 2% of the votes. God damn. And I was able to read a lot of the comments. I didn't read them all, but I read a lot of the comments, and it's mostly between Lomachenko and Devin Haney, and which makes sense. I think the two of them, it should definitely be between those two for sure. Right, but we're gonna get more into it. Real quick, I said the other day, I actually just booked all of my tickets and my hotel and everything for the Hall of Fame 2022. If you guys never been there, especially if you're in the tri-state area, if you have the time, check it out. It's a nice visit. If you have time, you can spend the weekend up there. I'm going with one of my best friends. You guys know him. A lot of you know him from back in the day, USA MVP. We're going to shoot out there for the weekend. Definitely wouldn't miss the induction of Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, Miguel Cotto, Holly Holm, everyone that's getting inducted. Congratulations to them. But book your tickets if you can go for sure. Because, just to go for the museum alone, the experience alone of going up there is a lot of history in that museum. It's not a big museum, but there's definitely things to do up there. So if you've never gone up there, especially if you're in the tri-state area, take the 4-hour drive or so to get up there, So I will be going. If anyone is going up there, let me know. Maybe we can link up while up there and have some fun. I'm going to spend the whole weekend up there, the whole weekend. I booked tickets to every event. So, of course, it was costly, but I'm really into it. I'm really excited about that, all right? All right, so let's talk 135, man. Let's talk 135. Devin Haney. Yes, it's upstate. Rebel, what's up? What's up, Rebel? Devin Haney. The reason why he's my number one, and I've been saying video after video, he's my number one, is because he's literally been the mandatory since Lomachenko actually held the belt for the WBC. Okay, me personally, I was never a fan of the idea of the franchise title. I never liked it. All they did was make the super WBC title, which was the major WBC title. All they did was water down the title, upgrade the franchise, which was new, as the legitimate title, and there was no more mandatory left. And Devin Haney pretty much got screwed out of a fight. Now, what I said back then, and I've been consistent with this, and my opinion on it still stands. I believe that unification should trump mandatories. So even though Devin Haney at that time was the mandatory, I don't believe that Teofimo Lopez should have fought. Well, I'm sorry. Teofimo Lopez beat Devin Comey for the title, right? He beat Comey for the title, and then Lomachenko went to have their undisputed match against Teofimo Lopez. I believe that that should have been the right thing to do, because Teo holds a title, Lomachenko holds 3 titles. The right thing to do is put the belts together and have a big fight. But because the WBC created that whole franchise bullshit, that caused a lot of friction between everybody, the fans and the fighters as well, caused a lot of confusion. Since then, what did Devin Haney do? He went on to beat 3 former world champions, all right? Gamboa, who a lot of us didn't want that fight because we know Gamboa is way past it. Definitely like the fight between who was the other guy he fought? He fought Jojo Diaz and he fought Jorge Linares. Okay, Linares. So he fought Linares. That was a big step up because Linares was a recent champion at 135, a career lightweight, a guy that had the title and won. He had about 7 title defenses. So that was a legitimate win. That was a legitimate fight. And that was a step up for Haney at the time. So he beat him, and he went on to beat Jojo Diaz, who was recently beat Javier Fortuna at 135 on his move up to 135, beat him. And that's a guy that Devin Haney was supposed to fight. And those are 3 legitimate wins since then. And he's still the WBC super champion without ever getting his crack at the highest WBC title. So specifically for that reason, I think Haney is deserving of a title shot at this time, because he's been waiting for his opportunity since he was the mandatory. He was the last mandatory for the WBC. And since then, Loma and Teofimo Lopez fought, and then Teofimo Lopez went on to fight Kambosos. And I think at this time, Haney should get his opportunity. That's my number one option. Now, will he get it? I'm not sure, because you have Ryan out there, you have Lomachenko out there, you even have Tank if he's interested out there. And I think that's part of the reason why. I don't think Tank is going to get the fight, because Tank seems to be the least interested of the fight. Tank has already, him, Mayweather, Leonard Ellaby, they already told the public that they don't really care about the titles. They don't seem to be that interested. I think if Tank actually pushed for the fight, if Tank actually went out there and said in an interview, I want those belts, I want an opportunity, then I think that he would be in the mix of trying to make the fight. But since Tank hasn't really showed any interest in the titles, he's over there doing his own thing. He has like a junior WBA belt. He's over there on the PBC doing his own thing. They're supposed to be keeping it PBC. They're keeping everything in-house. Since that's what's going on here, I don't see Tank being in this mix on trying to pick who is going to be the next guy for the I guess undisputed or for title fight. Really depends. All right. Another reason why And the main reason why I want Devin Haney, and I said this before Devin Haney's in a fight, and I've said this before Lomachenko's fight, the main reason why is because of the WBC thing. You know, I think they ruined it with the franchise title. And my biggest thing is the WBC did not stick to their own rules. We got to remember that. You know, I know you guys like to attack certain fighters and attack certain groups of fans, but you got to remember when the WBC created the franchise title, it was to get rid of the mandatory obligations. But they also said that this title is non-transferable. Okay, it's non-transferable. So as soon as they created that title, what happens? They gave it to Lomachenko. Lomachenko went to lose to Teofimo Lopez, and guess who's the franchise title, at least at that time? It was Teofimo Lopez. So it got transferred, and then it got transferred again to George Kambosos, who beat Teofimo Lopez. So these belts, this franchise title is being passed around to this guy, to this guy. I know Haney didn't beat anyone to win the title, but he was the mandatory at that time. And it's only right, especially if you people that are Dillian White supporters. If you guys are Dillian White supporters and you know what's going on with the WBC and his shot against Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, the guys that's been champion at with the WBC title. If you guys know, you've been around and you guys support Dillian White, you should understand Devin Haney. This is not about Devin Haney fans. You guys got to separate your feelings about those fans that you may not like. Some of those fans. We're not talking about fans. We're not talking about Lomachenko fans. We're not talking about Devin Haney fans. We're not talking about Tank fans. I'm just speaking logic here. This kid has been mandatory since 3 fights ago. Over 3 fights ago. He's been the mandatory. So at this point, I think he deserves his title. Now, Lomachenko is definitely deserving of another title shot. Yes, he lost to Teofimo Lopez. What did he do? He came back. He beat Nakatani. Good win. Nakatani was coming off of a career win against what's his name? The Puerto Rican fighter that got jammed up out in Puerto Rico. Phyllis Verdejo. He beats Phyllis Verdejo. Very impressive performance. Got knocked down, got hurt, was losing, being dominated, was able to come back and pick up a win. You know, we all knew about the Teofimo Lopez fight he had where he looked impressive against Teofimo Lopez, gave Teo his hardest fight of his career at that point, right? He gave him a hard fight, so it was a good win for Loma to come back and stop him. Did way better than Teo did against Nakatani. What did Lomachenko do this past weekend? He fought Richard Comey, dominated him, dropped him, hurt him multiple times, won a clear decision, and that is another former champion. So is Lomachenko definitely worthy of a fight for the title? So 3 of the titles that he had won previously? Absolutely. Is he worthy of the title? Absolutely. Do I think he deserves it more than Haney right now? No, because Haney has a belt. Yes, it was emailed to him, but he has a WBC belt. He was mandatory before that belt. He's been the mandatory. He's undefeated. He's picked up some good wins, and I think he's more deserving of it right now. If George were to say, you know what, I'm going to pick Lomachenko, I think that's the fight we're going with. Whatever he decides to do, would I be disappointed? Yeah, slightly, because I want Haney to get his opportunity, and I want them to end this whole undisputed 4-belt thing. I want it to be debate to be over, because there are going to be still fans out there that are going to say he's not undisputed because he did not beat Devin Haney. Devin Haney still has a title. You're undisputed once they sort all that whole thing out, because a lot of people don't see franchise as being a real title, a legitimate title, and that has to do with the WBC and their rules and them not sticking to those rules that they made when they created that title. They are not sticking to their rules. They're changing it as they go. And this is why people think that title is bullshit. And I agree with that. I agree with the WBC and the franchise being bullshit. Now, do Devin Haney has the real belt? No, he doesn't have the real belt neither. You know why? Because he didn't beat anyone to get that belt. He was awarded that belt due to sympathy. Yes, You were supposed to be, you were the mandatory. So what we're going to do is water that title down and give it off to you. All right. So at this point, the WBC title is not a real thing until the WBC champ fights the real WBC champ, whoever that is, and we can sort that out. And that's why I think Devin Haney it should be. All right. I said before, Ryan Garcia, King Ryan. Let me drink some of this tea real quick. Hold on. You start talking for so long, your mouth get dry and stuff. Hold on real quick. Roland Curtis, thank you for the donation. He asked, did you hear the ESPN telecast identify Haney as a WBC regular champion as WBC titles followed the WBA designations? Kambosos said regular too. I mean, look, I didn't hear it, but if that's true, whether they call it the regular, whether they call it super, it doesn't change the fact that even if it was called super, Devin Haney is not being acknowledged as a true champ. Whether they call it super or regular, that's exactly what they did. They created a new rule specifically for Lomachenko when he had the belt in order to water down. All they did, if you really think about it, all they did was change the name to the title. They made the super, they turned it into a franchise, and they made the regular and turned it into super. That's all they did. It's bullshit, and that's that. You know, they wanted the undisputed opportunity for Lomachenko without forcing him to fight his mandatory. And that's wrong. That's wrong. Now, they did that, but what they should have done, instead of swapping the titles, they should have stood by and said, you know what? You're the mandatory, but unification trumps mandatory. Don't change the names of the titles at all. Don't create a franchise title. Just have Lomachenko fight Teofimo Lopez for undisputed. We wouldn't have had no issues. Because at the end of the day, I will take unification over mandatory in any scenario. In any scenario, unification trumps mandatories. How long has Dillian White been a mandatory? And other fighters that's held that title, that WBC thing, did voluntary fights or contracted, agreed rematch clauses. You know, no, that doesn't trump unification. It shouldn't trump unification, because what we want to know is who is the true king at 135. Now, if George and Devin Haney were to fight each other, the winner would be undisputed without any debate, right? The winner. Lomachenko should be right there to fight that winner of that fight. Now, if Lomachenko has a fight in between that, which we'll get into later in this video, if he has a fight in between that and he loses, then he lost his opportunity, obviously. But I believe that it should be Haney. Let's sort this undisputed thing out. Let's make sense of all of it. And then let's go. I have toothpaste on my arm. Let's go. Let's go and have Lomachenko or whoever else is up at the time. I think Lomachenko is the most deserving out of Haney. I mean, besides Haney. And then we'll go straight into an undisputed fight again, without it being any doubt that that person, that winner, is undisputed. You know, I think right now it still creates doubt. And the longer we keep going, how long are we going to keep going, having more and more fights with this franchise super title bullshit? How long are we going to keep going? You know, this guy has been mandatory for a long time at this point. You know, so with that being said, let's get the belts together. And I think George should fight Haney. All right. That's my pick. I don't know if that's what he's going to do. Give Haney his opportunity at this point. You know, I mean, he's fighting good fighters. Some of you might not be impressed with him, but you being impressed, whether you're impressed or not, That's based on your opinion and your opinion alone. Some people are not impressed with Lomachenko. Some people are not impressed with Tank Davis. Some people are not impressed with Ryan Garcia. You don't have to be impressed. But what Devin Haney has been doing, beating guys that were former champions, one who is actually in his prime, and Jojo Diaz, he's active, he's in his prime. That was a legit win. That was a legit win. You can say what you want about Linares being older and stuff. Fine. You can say what you want about Gamboa. But Jojo Diaz is active. He beat a top contender in Javier Fortuna that Devin Haney was supposed to fight before. He beat him. So he's legit at 135. So that's why I believe that it should be Haney first. If not Haney, then Loma. At that point, if it's not one of those two, I don't really see the point, because I would say Tank, but Tank don't seem to be interested in those titles. He's keeping everything in-house. So, Ryan Garcia, where does he fit in? I told you guys before that I think there's a high possibility that Ryan Garcia gets the fight. All right. And I said this because Ryan, he's interested. He showed interest in the fight. And I know it's all business. George just got a big win. Is George going to go directly into facing Haney or Lomachenko, who are big threats? Or is he going to want to have a title defense? If he fights Haney, if he fights George, I'm not saying that Ryan's not a threat, but this will be a good time to fight Ryan because Ryan hasn't been in the ring since he fought Luke Campbell. And by the time he gets in the ring against a George Kambosos, if he gets selected, that'll be over a year since his last fight. He had his biggest win. He's coming off a partial retirement because of mental health or mental illness or whatever mental health issues that he had. This will be the perfect time to fight a Ryan Garcia, So right now, George will probably be the favorite going in that fight because George is coming off his biggest win against an undefeated Teofimo Lopez, who just beat Lomachenko. So instead of going straight into Haney, who's coming off good wins, instead of going off go after Lomachenko, who's much more seasoned and experienced, pound for pound type of fighter, to go, and risk everything against him. Or why not just, let me get this extra bag, fight Ryan Garcia first before going into a bigger fight against a Haney or a Lomachenko. That's my logic of why I think Ryan may possibly be chosen. Because they're going to use the name. Oh, Ryan has a name. Ryan got followers. Ryan's, this guy on Instagram. They might use that in order to build that fight and make some kind of fight out of it. Not that I want that. I don't want that. But I'm just speaking logic here and how these boxers, if you've been a fan of this sport, you know how boxing works. That sometimes they give us those fights that we really don't. And if King Rye is the next opponent, I would not be surprised at all. Even Canelo, who's part of his team, part of his camp, said that Ryan don't seem to be focused right now. Ryan Garcia got to be like, 23, 24 years old? And he's just gone a whole year without fighting. January will be a year without fighting. And he would be coming off, he's 23 years old. He would be coming off of his biggest win, his career biggest win. And not being active is not a good look for him. You beat Luke Campbell, you stopped him. You did something that no one's done. Luke has lost fights, but you were able to stop him. And what do? You take a mental health break. I don't think I've even ever heard of that before, from a boxer. So I'm saying, I think he's the least deserving of it. But I can see if they were to pick Ryan Garcia, I would not be surprised, man. And I'm just telling y'all that because if it were to happen, I don't want you guys to be shocked. I know you guys are going to go crazy. If he picks Ryan Garcia, I know the internet is going to go nuts. They're going to go crazy. But if they pick him, if he gets picked, let it go. It is what it is. Now, if it is a Ryan Garcia, what happens? Well, if it is Ryan, then Tank and Lomachenko is going to be left without a dance partner. So if it's not Loma and it's not Haney, which is what most of us want, one or the other. I want Haney first, but if it's not those two should fight each other. Straight like that. If Kambosos says, I'm going to fight Ryan or I'm going to fight Tank, or it could be some random other person out there, what is Loma Haney going to do? They should fight each other. And the winner of that could fight the winner of Kambosos and whoever is the winner of the Kambosos fight. That's all I'm saying. Because if we really think about it, at this point, everybody has had a step-up fight. Even Ryan. Even though it was Luke Campbell, that was still a step-up fight against a top contender, a guy that's been in a couple of championship fights, right? Top contender, right? He fought Linares, lost, fought Lomachenko. Those are title fights, though. So he's been in there with title fights. So Ryan stepped up. Devin Haney has stepped up for a few former champions, right? Lomachenko, I mean, he's been a champion in 3 different divisions, so we don't need to talk about him. Tank has been around. He's been a champion. All right. He's won the junior belts in multiple weight classes. He's been a legitimate title holder at 130. He's still undefeated. Everybody has done something to prove in themselves at this point. Everyone's done something. So with that being said, anybody can get picked. But whoever gets selected, whoever that fighter is that gets chosen for the Kambosos fight, whoever is left available should be able to fight the other top guy. And I think it should work that way. Now, if in a perfect world, if it is Devin Haney, it says Kambosos says, you know what? We're to go with Devin Haney. We're going to roll with him. All right. We're going to sort this whole thing out. It'll be an undisputed fight. They'll be able to promote the fight as an undisputed fight for real, like a real undisputed fight. They'll promote it. It'll be out in Australia. It'll be a big thing. If they were to do that in a perfect world, I would love for Lomachenko to fight a Tank Davis. I would love a Lomachenko to fight a Ryan Garcia. Now, would that happen? Hell no. It's not going to happen. But I would love for it to happen because you guys are not doing anything. What's going on? These guys are fighting for a title. Maybe if you pick up another good win, you'll be selected next. But this is boxing. It normally doesn't work in a way that I want it to work, So we just got to wait and see. Now, Tank Davis, I wanted to bring something up with him real quick because I was going over the rankings, right? I didn't realize that Michelle Rivera, I brought him up yesterday, the young fighter that I said was a prospect, right? Michelle Rivera is undefeated. I believe he's Dominican, right? He's Dominican. Looks like Muhammad Ali a little bit, likes to wear the trunks, big Ali fan. Real good prospect, So we was talking about Keyshawn Davis. I brought up Michelle Rivera. I didn't realize that Michelle Rivera right now is number 2 in the WBA. He's actually right behind Rolly Romero, who Tank was supposed to fight. So if Tank doesn't fight Rolly Romero, because Rolly Romero is still going to do his legal, his allegations, if he's still going through that and he's out the picture, right? If he's still unable to fight right now, I can see Tank fighting Michelle Rivera because Tank is a regular champion at the WBA as it is. And Michelle Rivera is also a PBC fighter. So just to put that out there, if there's any Michelle Rivera fans in here, very good prospect, but he's not even a prospect anymore. He's actually a contender. He's ranked high, and he's due for a title shot pretty soon. At some point, maybe he's probably a fight or two away from being a mandatory. He's probably 1 or 2 fights away. So I can see that fight happening. I don't think Tank is going to fall. I don't think he's going to fight any of these fighters. I don't see him fighting Ryan Garcia. I don't see him fighting. And I'm not putting blame on Tank. I'm just saying I don't see him fighting Lomachenko. I don't see him fighting Devin Haney. I don't see him fighting King Ryan, Ryan Garcia. I do see him possibly fighting Rolly Romero still. He's still an option. Excuse me, depending on his situation. I do see him fighting King Ryan. I do see him fighting Rolly Romero. I do see him rematching Isaac Cruz. Because Isaac Cruz is the guy that people are saying beat Tank in his last fight. So if this is a situation that's similar to Floyd Mayweather, which it is, because Isaac Cruz did that good against Tank, don't be surprised if we see an Isaac Cruz rematch. I'm not asking for it. I'm definitely not asking for it. But let's not completely dismiss that possibility, because that's a huge possibility. All right. So Isaac Cruz may be an option. Rolly Romero may be an option. And Michelle Rivera, the up-and-coming guy, is also an option. And actually wouldn't be a bad fight. It's just that Michelle actually lacks the experience against Tank, in my opinion. But he's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. He's one of the top prospects that I've been watching. All right. So that's another opportunity, I say if Vasyl Lomachenko gets picked, if he's the guy that gets picked in this fight, I would like for Devin Haney to possibly fight Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia and Golden Boy, they're cherry pickers. I'm going to say it as it is. Because Devin has been around willing to fight him for a while. These guys are rivals since the amateurs. They fought like 6 times in the amateurs. They know each other well. Devin Haney has been calling him out pretty much for years now, for the last few years. And, King Ryan was very eager to jump up and fight Kambosos right away when Kambosos won. If he doesn't get the Kambosos fight, Ryan Garcia should be just as eager to fight Devin Haney, because Devin Haney does actually have a title. So I would like to see Ryan Garcia try to make a fight with Devin Haney if Lomachenko is the chosen one. If Lomachenko is going to fight Kambosos, fight Devin Haney. I mean, well, if Devin Haney is the weakest at 135, why would he move up? Golden Boy. I mean, Golden Boy with Oscar in the picture. Not surprised at how you feel about it. So yeah, that's the way I see it. I think I try to put all the scenarios together here. I think Teofimo Lopez, unfortunately, as much as I would love for him to stay at 135, it seems like 135 is not the weight class for him. He's going to be moving up to 140. In the comments, real quick, and definitely hit that like button if you haven't already. In the comments, please let me know. Just put a name out there. Who do you want Kambosos to fight next? Real quick, everybody, just all the way down. I know I did a poll, and I know the poll doesn't mean everything. We got just under 1,000 votes. But let me know in the comments, who do you want to see Kambosos fight next? What's up, Luca? What's good? Arthur says Haney. Dan says Haney. D-Bro says Haney. D-Ish says Haney. Isan says Loma will be W. Oh, totally forgot about that. Totally forgot about that. I'm glad you brought it up, but we'll go back to that in a minute. Isan says Loma. Art says Loma. Garrett, Loma. Working Man, Haney. Haney. Loma. Shakur. Okay, we got a Shakur in there. Loma, Haney, Loma, Haney. Tank, Haney, Loma. All right. It's really between Haney and Loma. You know, I think 95% of people believe that it should be either Haney or Loma. All right. Probably a little bit more Haney than Loma, but there's still a lot of Loma out there. So look, I forgot about that point. I actually brought up that point yesterday or the day before yesterday when I went live. Lomachenko may possibly be the mandatory, and most likely he's probably, I totally forgot about that, and I'm so glad you brought that up. Lomachenko and Comey the other night for some type of WBO title. I believe it was like for an intercontinental WBO title. So there's a strong possibility that none of this matters, and the WBO is going to step in and say that you got to fight your mandatory and Vasyl Lomachenko. If that's what's going to happen, sorry, Haney fans. Sorry, everybody else. Lomachenko is going to get the fight. You know, so that's what happens. Now, yes, Jesus, you just said what I was about to say. Undisputed, though, if Haney could find a way to get the WBO, the WBC to support him, which they haven't done much of a good job in doing that, to push for this undisputed fight, then yes. But the thing is, the WBC already recognizes George Kambosos as the undisputed champ. That's the problem. Because remember, they're not forcing any mandatories with their champions. So whoever is the franchise champion, who is George Kambosos at this time, they're not going to force Kambosos to fight a mandatory because they eliminated that once they created the franchise title, which doesn't make sense. Because if you no longer have any mandatories, you're pretty much, as long as you're the WBC franchise champion, which is transferable now, whoever picks up that title won't be obligated to fight a mandatory, which is part of the reason why I want Haney to get the fight. Because as long as Haney holds the super title and doesn't fight for the franchise title, we will never have an official WBC champion. It's going to continue causing confusion because that franchise title was specifically given to Lomachenko. It was never supposed to be transferable. This is why I want Haney to get the fight, because it just doesn't make any sense. It never made sense to begin with. The WBC has screwed that up since the beginning. You guys are going to war with each other in this chat room, I see. You know? So I think they just need to settle this. And I think if Haney were to get the fight first, it would settle everything. You know, because the winner of that fight will be the official champion, no disputing. Yeah, undisputed for real. You can't dispute anything because the winner will have the super title and the franchise title, which is championship, you know, which will solve all our issues. But if the WBO does it mandatory, which is very possible because the WBO has always been a top ranked belt to begin with. Bob Arum really pushes for that. I can see Kambosos, getting that shot against Lomachenko. And that'll be that, you know? Mike says, I would love for Haney to be next, but I do feel like Loma's more deserving based on his accomplishments. And yeah, you know what? He is the most accomplished fighter out of all of these fighters at 135 for sure. And I feel you on that. But Lomachenko also has a loss to Teofimo Lopez. And because of that loss, this is why he doesn't hold the titles, and Haney was the mandatory for that title while Lomachenko still held it. It's been passed on to 2 other fighters now. At some point, he has to get a title opportunity. We can't just, if you don't like Haney, like this guy, Ryan Garcia, that's texting and typing in all caps. Just because you don't like Haney doesn't mean he's not deserving of a fight. That's just not how boxing really works. You don't have to like him. You don't have to think that he's the most deserving. But it doesn't mean that he shouldn't get the fight just because you feel like he doesn't deserve the fight. Because based on your logic, he'll never deserve the fight, period, no matter who he beat, because he lacks power or whatever, because he struggled against Jojo Diaz. That whole word struggle, when fighters struggle in certain fights, I don't know, fans today believe that you're not worthy of a title fight because you struggle in a fight. At the end of the day, the dude won the fight and he won it clear. Devin Haney won that fight clear. Just because you're not impressed with him doesn't mean he doesn't deserve the fight. He's picking up the wins, Nurjin says, if Loma were to win Undisputed, we would see more top fights with Loma because he is a draw and there would be nothing but pay-per-view and we would see good fights. Okay, yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm not taking that away from Loma because Loma's been consistent throughout his career. He's been fighting good fighters throughout his career. But again, Devin Haney has not really tried to avoid fighters. I think the only time he's ever really said anything about not wanting to take a fight is when he was asked to fight Lomachenko after Lomachenko lost to Teofimo Lopez. And this is where he said, I don't want the fight right now because Lomachenko just lost to Teofimo Lopez. Now, I don't know if he would feel that way if Lomachenko were to win against George Kambosos. But that has yet to be proven because as far as right now, Devin Haney is not the undisputed champion. He's not the guy with all of the titles. We know he's tried to push towards a Teofimo Lopez fight. He pushed towards a Ryan Garcia fight. He wanted the Tank Davis fight. He even wanted the Lomachenko fight before Lomachenko fought Teofimo Lopez. So with that being said, we can't say that Devin Haney won't want to fight the top fighters. That has yet to been seen. So I can't just remove Loma or Haney out of the equation just based on that alone. Punch Perfect asks, hey bro, hope you're good. Just joining the live now, so sorry if you haven't answered this already. But who do you think is in the stronger position to land a Kambosos fight? Well, yeah, I've been talking about that all video, and I think that it's really hard to call because I can see it happening for different reasons. I think King Ryan Garcia has a shot because I think he's the least dangerous. He's the least active right now. He's coming off of a mental health issue, a mental health break, and I think it's the most winnable fight. And they can use his popularity to sell the fight. I think Haney has a shot because Haney would make it a legitimate undisputed title, like an undisputed, a non-disputable, undisputed title shot. So I think Haney, coming off of his wins, having that title, making it official with the WBC, consolidating the WBC titles would make that fight, desirable. And I think Lomachenko has a shot at getting it because he's Lomachenko, all right? He's the biggest name out of the three. He's the most experienced, the most he's done the most in his career. Plus, he may get it simply off the WBO mandatory if he is going to become the mandatory. All right. So I don't know who's going to get the fight. I really don't know. I can see it being any of these guys. I'm just kind of waiting and see how it goes. It's really hard to predict where it's going to go. All I'm doing here in this video is basically bringing all the scenarios that can happen. And that's what this whole video is about, just making every single scenario work. Like, this could be a scenario, this could be a scenario, this could be a scenario. You just never know. I think what I will say is that Tank Davis is the least likely because Tank doesn't really want to be a part of anything outside of the PBC. And Tank doesn't really care for the titles that much like the other fighters. So I'm not really bringing Tank into the equation like that because I don't think Tank is that interested in those titles. The only time, I seen him asked about the fight, he basically said, yeah, I'll fight George Kambosos if the money is right, but he can keep those titles. I don't even want those titles. So with that being said, I don't see Tank really being an option. I see Ryan getting a fight. I see Loma getting a fight. I see Haney getting a fight before him, So that's the way I feel about that. But yeah, there's still a lot of guys out there. And, that's another thing. If, I've said before in the Twitter or tweet, I'm sorry. I said before in a tweet, I can't wait for Kambosos to decide, and it might not be decided until another month from now. I don't really know when he's going to make a decision on that. I know whoever is to get the fight with Kambosos, they're going to have to fight him out in Australia. But whoever he decides, we still got, you got Lomachenko, you have Tank Davis, you got Devin Haney, you got Rakamarov out there. He had that draw with Jojo Diaz. You still got Jojo Diaz out there. You still got Isaac Cruz out there. Ryan Garcia. Comey lost again, but he's still out there. Linares is coming back. He's going to be fighting Abdulayev in his next fight, I believe. You still got Javier Fortuna. You got guys that's still out there. Lancatani, Michelle Rivera. You still got guys out there that are available. Yes, they came off losses. Yes, they recently lost to one of these top fighters, but they're still very good. They're still top contenders, and they could still easily put themselves back in position to fight for a title. Maybe not in 2022, but in 2023, So there's still a lot of fights that can still be made out there. All right. But yeah. All right. So look, I think we all came to agreement here for the most part. My number one is Devin Haney. All right. My number one is Devin Haney. My number two is Lomachenko. My number three would be Tank Davis, even though he's not interested. And those are my three. I don't even want Ryan to get a fight. I don't want Ryan. I don't like the way he's maneuvering too much, taking breaks, coming back, trying to get into a fight. I don't even like that. But those are my three in that order. I want Haney to get the shot, and I want Lomachenko to get the shot if he doesn't get the shot. And then I want Tank to get the shot if the other two don't get the shot. I just wanted to be those three. I would say Teofimo Lopez rematch, but Teofimo Lopez is going to go up to 140, and I want him to go to 140 because if you're using weight as an excuse on why you lost the fight, outside of that and the other things like your lungs and you almost died and all this stuff, you got robbed by the zone. If you really feel that way, bro, just move up to 140. And that's the way I feel about that. All right. So that's my order. And I think that's just about it. I think that's just the way I see it. All right. So that's my review of 135. I think I don't think there's anything left to talk about, when it comes to these guys. We just got to sit back and wait and see what Kambosos decide on. And whoever he decides on, then we can talk about who the next opponent is going to be. And then we can figure out who is going to fight each other in place of that, All right. But whoever doesn't get the Kambosos fight should fight the other top guy that's available. That's the way I see it. So how do I see Teofimo Lopez at 140? That's a good question. This is what I feel about Teo. All right. And I haven't really had time to sit down and talk about this. I think the priority for Teofimo Lopez is to get your life together. All right. Whatever you're going through in your personal life. I seen him win the award the other day of fighter of the year for 2020. Beating Comey, knocking him out, and then beating Lomachenko to a decision. Get your life in order. Get your health in order. He seemed to back his dad, which is cool. That's what he wants. He's backing his father. His father will continue being his trainer. That's what it looks like. Whatever it is, sort it out. Start, getting in the gym. Sort out your promotional issues too. Make things right with Top Rank if that's what you're gonna be. This is where I'm assuming you're gonna be. I don't know how many fights is left under his contract, but if he's under Top Rank, sort everything out with them. Make it right. Train. Handle your personal life. Get that out. Listen, even if he needs to take a break, and fall back from boxing a little bit to sort everything out with his family, if he's really going through a divorce, sort that out. Because all of that can affect you mentally going into the next fight. So if he's going to go straight to 140 and he's going to be fighting bigger guys up there, again, he's a power puncher, but we got to worry about your punching power carrying over up to 140. When he fought George Kambosos is able to take a lot of right hands from Teo in that fight. All right. Kambosos, who's still at 135, and Kambosos is not a big 135 fighter. So if Kambosos was able to take that many right hands from you, that's a sign that when you go up there and fighting, the Josh Taylors or, Josh is probably going to move to 147, but, you got guys like Regis Prograis up there. You got Antoine Russell Jr., or Antoine, I don't know if he's a junior, but you got Gary Antoine Russell up there. You got a lot of fighters at 140. Okay. I could see him doing well if things are only put together right. If he's good mentally, I can see him being good at 140. If he's not good, I don't really know. But he got to sort everything out with the politics, with the promotions, with his personal life, and then they can go on from there. So that's my answer to that question. Leonard Sterling, thank you for the donation. Came on late. We'll listen to the full show. Agree with your list. Yeah. Go back. Definitely check it out because I spoke on a lot of things, a lot of scenarios. What if Lomachenko? What if it's Devin Haney? What if it's King Ryan? What if it's Tank Davis? I talked a little bit about Tank. I talked about what he can possibly do, potential opponents, that I see. Talked about Teofimo Lopez just now. And I talked about franchise, the difference between that. Talked about the WBO and how Lomachenko could be the mandatory. I think I brought up everything in this video. All right. So we can move on from 135. We have some fights coming up this weekend that I definitely want to do videos on. We got what do we have? We have Joseph Parker against Derek Chisora 2 this weekend. What else we got? What other fights we got coming up this weekend? What else we got? What else we got? What else we got? Okay. Oh, Inoue, Naoya Inoue is gonna be fighting tomorrow, actually. All right. So I'm not gonna cover that fight because it's probably gonna be some weird odd hour. It's gonna probably be too early in the morning for me to cover. All right. So we got some big fights this weekend. We got Arthur Beterbiev against Marcus Brown. Really looking forward to that. Actually looking forward to that the most for this weekend. I will do a breakdown. I don't like doing predictions when I have a fighter that I really personally know and want to win. All right. I'm definitely biased for Brown. So when it comes to giving a prediction, I feel like he can win. But again, it's because I really want him to win. You know, if I didn't know him and if I didn't care for him, I would probably just tell you that Beterbiev probably would get the stoppage. But I actually believe that Marcus Brown has a chance of winning this fight. I really do. I do believe that. But I don't know if that's me being biased or not. All right. Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley is having their rematch. Don't expect a breakdown from me. I'm not giving you a breakdown. We already saw the first fight. I really don't care for the rematch. I would like to assume that Jake Paul is going to win again, but Tyron Woodley was able to hurt him in that first fight, and you just really never know. Maybe he can knock him out this time. You know, I have no idea. What else we got? And we got Parker against Chisora, and I'm picking Parker to win again. I'm picking Parker to win. You know, a lot of people has fought Derek Chisora in the rematch, and they all beat Chisora. You know, Chisora has yet to win a rematch. I don't believe he's won a rematch yet. I know Fury fought him twice. I know that Dillian White fought him twice, and both of those guys were able to stop him in a rematch. You know, so I'm expecting Joseph Parker to win, not stop him, but definitely win a decision against Chisora in the rematch. Maybe possibly stop him too. I like Chisora. All right, I love him, but you know, I know the first fight was close, but I don't think he's gonna win against Joseph Parker. All right, but I'll probably do a breakdown on that fight. You know, and yeah, that's all we got for the major fights. Yeah, I mean, I'm allowed to be biased. I know I'm rooting for Marcus Brown. But I'm gonna tell you that before you listen to me. You know, I believe Marcus Brown has a shot if it goes to a decision. But Beterbiev, I think Marcus has a better shot of beating him now based on Beterbiev coming off injuries, coming off COVID, him being 36 years old. I think Marcus Brown has a good shot in beating him now. Marcus has a great he's a great boxer. It's just that he has a questionable chin, a very very questionable chin. And I think that's the problem, you know, and fighting a guy like Beterbiev, you know, Beterbiev lands one big shot, he's going to hurt Marcus Brown, you know. And that's why I feel like Beterbiev, it should be the favorite to win this fight because of his power and because Brown doesn't have a great chin. But if we're talking a fight like round by round, going to 12, I think Marcus has a good shot in outboxing him to a decision if he can make it that far. All right. So we'll talk more about that in a future video. But yo, I'm signing out, guys. Somebody make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Share the video. And I'll be back later to discuss the fights coming up this week. All right. Peace.